Good morning, my name is Austin Lekay. Today I will be critiquing a program. I'll be critiquing and analyzing a training program for Sipho Dlamini. So, for Sipho Dlamini, he is a 22-year-old. He aspires to play provincial rugby. So, that is quite elite level rugby, and he wishes to do this. That is part of his goal. Another goal of his is to prevent injuries while playing and to improve his overall performance as a rugby player. So, firstly, we will go over his tests. So, we'll go over certain and analyze certain tests that was ran on Sipho Dlamini. So, we look at VO2 max. So, his VO2 max was quite average if you can look on the board. His endurance is it's okay for an elite rugby player, but it is something we wish to maintain because it is very important for a back player to maintain their endurance because they do most of the running on the field. That is the position also of Sipho Dlamini. He wishes to be a backline player in a provincial rugby team. So his 40-meter sprint, so for his agility, we have a T-test, agility test, and a 40-meter sprint. Those tests he did, that's actually one of his two of his strengths is his speed and agility. So in my program, I didn't have to alter that too much. So another test we looked at is his vertical jump. He scored quite average for his vertical jump. It was a bit low for the normative of an elite rugby player, for a backline player, and it's definitely something we can look at to work on. The last two things, as you can see on the board, was his biggest weaknesses of all. So he scored the lowest out of all the other tests, was his strength, upper body and lower body strength, as well as his flexibility, which was the poorest out of all the tests which was conducted. So now we will be looking at the annual training program and critiquing the annual training program that he initially had. This is where I'll make my adjustments and see where and what performance needs and what is needed to be trained. So firstly, we have the preparation phase, which is 6 to 8 weeks. We have the pre-season phase, which is also about 6 to 8 weeks. So for these two phases, I made sure to prioritize strength training, which was his weakness, his biggest weakness of all as well, flexibility. So with the flexibility, I made sure to incorporate it into his entire session with the strength training sessions as well. So immediately after his strength training sessions, I made sure to let him do his flexibility. That way you can save time, as well as while the muscles are still nice and warm, and while they're tight and tense from working out, you want to make sure you get a deep stretch in those muscles instead of just let them go home and not stretch out correctly. So these advanced stretching sessions, I did incorporate them into his cool downs just to make things easier. Another thing as well, as you can see for my program, on days where he did days we did is heavy loads, so that would be his compound exercises, which I made him do. Why I chose compound exercises? Well, it's the best way to increase strength force is through a compound exercise, and it also exercises the entire body. It's compound exercises for functional movement instead of making him do isolated exercises, which won't be as functional and practical to the sport that he's playing, which is rugby. So to fit the strength and the strength training programs into my program, after a big strength and resistance session, I made sure to add an active rest straight after. As you can see, one of the active rests I added here was jogging. So another active rest as well. So on days we did upper body resistance training, I added an active rest of jogging. So is doing a light cardio but using his legs. And on days where he did lower body resistance training, we did the compound moves like heavy squats and Bulgarian split squats, deadlifts. I made sure to not add in an active rest where he will be using his legs again the next day. I added, as you can see on the board, an active rest like swimming, which doesn't use his legs, so his lower body will get a proper and appropriate amount of rest before he goes into start again with his training. And we move on into in-season, the in-season phase. This is about 20 to 30 weeks. And just to add, his training program before this, there was very little strength training and almost no flexibility session in his program. And his strength, upper body and lower body strength, and flexibility was the two weakest attributes he scored on during his tests. That's why I made sure to add it into my program and add it abundantly into my program. As you can see, in-season training. So as we go into the in-season training now we're getting ready for games. So in this in his weekly program that I designed here, I made sure to add more skills because now we're getting into game time. So I added 3 days with skill sessions. So the first skill session over here, we have attacking play. So they're gonna do attacking drills, they're gonna work on attacking phases in the game. Another skill session I added was defensive play. So now we're doing defensive drills, defensive phases in the game for Sipo to learn from. And then the last one, which I have here on Saturday. As you can see, I didn't add my Sundays because all Sundays are total rest days. There is no active rest, no any type of exercise that's happening on those days. So for the last skill session in my in-season phase, for the last skill session of the week, I added a tactical game session. Yes, a tactical practice game session. So for this, they will be playing a dummy game. So it will be a friendly game basically between teammates. And during this game, what they will focus on is tactics and new things, new skills that they've learned through the week. They're gonna add all of it collectively, both attacking and defensive skills that they've learned, and they're gonna add it all together on Saturday in the tactical game practice. So finally, for the transition phase, we want to keep everything light. You don't want to do too much volume or too much intensity. This is very important because you don't want to overwork your player. So the transition phase will be about 2 to 4 weeks. As you can see, I added most of the exercise here are light and moderate. Nothing is too intense or nothing is of high intensity. Resistance trainings that I added, it's light resistance training used with weights as well as machines. So that will range about 8 to 12 reps or even 12 to 15 reps to make sure the weight isn't too intense. As you can see, added mobility work and as well as fun sport specific rugby games just to keep their body flowing, and so they don't lose or they don't decline in this transition phase. This is just a way to maintain their skills as well as maintain physical attributes. And that's it for my analysis. Thank you.